So my first question is like, what inspired you to become a filmmaker? Like, how the journey started?
My approach and my taking to any kind of art form was through music. I was a musician first. Well, I wanted to choose an art form which was evocative in a sense of visual telling, because there is something that I get deeply moved by when it comes to visual storytelling. But formatively, my father, when I was very young, I was like in sixth or seventh, he got home a projector, and we started watching a lot of films, Gladiator and a lot of race films, and I remember watching Bicycle Thieves also. So that he pushed me into cinema. Like he always said that, why don't you look at cinema as a canvas, as another canvas, instead of you can also do music in that. And I kind of felt that was true, and then I fell in love with cinema.
So have you been to like film school or like during
I
your
have,
life, like which
yeah.
film school?
I studied at FTI, Film and Television Institute of India, Pune. I graduated in 2019, 2020. Yeah, I studied direction, editing there.
Was it a 2 year course, like 1 year course?
No, no, no. This was a 1 year direction course, and then I did a 1 year editing course also. So and then the pandemic happened, so I was like,
Like, so what's your opinion on film school? Like, there are some filmmakers who say you don't have to go to film school, and some will say you should go to film school.
I don't think you need to go to film school, but it is very individual. Like, I mean, Verna was a and a lot of these people speak about no film school because life is the greatest kind of teacher of cinema, because it is essentially like every day when you tune into a moment, you can see something so beautiful and cinematic happening around you every day in any space you live, in Bombay, in Jalandhar. I'm from Delhi, so from Delhi memory of certain memories come to me, which where I had tuned in, and that was so cinematic. But I don't think one opinion. I'm also a little conflicted, but strongly I do somehow believe that you don't need to go to film school to do this. But what film school does, really, as an individual, what it did for me was that it gave me not just access, but the knowledge of a lot of different kinds of films that were being made. When you are not in a film school, a lot of times you think that this would have happened with me, that I would have watched certain good films, like I'd seen Oran and I'd seen Bicycle Thieves, and I'd seen all of these films, and I thought like my cinema knowledge is pretty good. But when I went to FTI and all of that, it really opened up a world which I would have not. And you have that sense of ego that I know a lot about cinema, but it completely opened up a world, and it makes you humble, but it also makes you uh, aware of so many different ways of telling stories, and or not. I mean, there's so many filmmakers who don't tell a story, and they evoke cinema in its purest form.
So, like, you have been to like film school, and I have also done a short course from FTI. Like, it was a basic
Yeah.
direction course. So, do you think screenwriting can be taught because the first thing they'll teach you is three-act structure only, and they say you have to follow this. So, is it
I,
right?
I think screenwriting is critical. Like it is a scientific art form. I don't think it's a very direction is a lot of creative here and there. Like you can really tune out and imagine a moment, but writing needs to be slightly technical. It has a structure because stories have been around for over a millennia. We've told stories in the form of cave paintings. We've told stories in the form. So there is a certain structure that people are used to, but I'm not saying that there's a need to adhere to that structure. But the repetitions of like our collective consciousness as humanity has certain archetypes and stereotypes, etc., etc. So if one needs to learn about it before one desires to break it, you know So for me, the one book that was the most like absolute epitome and the greatest book for me has been a book called Robert McKee's The Story. It's it's a 400 odd long book, but it's such a manual. It'll open up everything. Like right recently, my father was asking me about he wants to learn screenwriting, so I introduced him to this book, and he like the way it's written, it's so simple. It's for everybody.
So now let's talk about your film, Humans in the Loop. First of all, it was recently shown in Kerala as well, no? Kerala
Yeah,
Film
yeah.
Festival.
He premiered in Mami, and then he showed it.
So how was the reaction in Mami and Kerala as well? Like, was it
It
different?
was very different between in the two festivals.
Yes, yes.
Um, Slightly different, but the core of it was the same. What started to happen after the first screening at Mami itself is that people started writing personal write ups on their Instagram and their LinkedIn's and their Facebook and on YouTube. Small, small write ups about what moves them and their own memory related to it's a very evocative memory oriented film also. Um, but people started chiming in their memories from their childhood or their whatever, which they could draw parallels to in the film. People started writing, and then from each person has an influence of 15, 20 people, and then they heard it, and then newspapers began to pick it up. So Hindu wrote about it, Indian Express, Deccan Herald, all of these wonderful newspapers that I've grown up reading. So it really was something. But it was the point I'm trying to make was that it was really ground up. It was not that there's a shiny film from the top which has come to you. It was more like people word of mouth gradually picking up and actually not very gradually. It was very sharp after like during Mami itself. It happened so that there was so much word of mouth that we had a full house in the final screening. At Kerala also we had a full house the first and the last screening, first and the second screening, and people just they made it their own. That's all I'll say. And I couldn't have asked for anything else.
Okay, okay. So, like, how the story came to you? Like, you are from Delhi, I guess.
Hmm.
When do you thought about to write a story about the Adivasi woman from Jharkhand?
So it came to me. There's a company called the Story Culture Company. They had a program called the Imagine Futures. Museum of Imagine Futures. What they wanted to do was to finance films based on the overlap of tech and society. During that time, I pitched this idea, and it got selected amongst many other applicants. And two films were greenlit. One was mine, and one was this. The thing about the idea itself, it comes from a journalist called Karishma Mehrotra. She writes for the Indian. She used to write for the Indian Express. She had an article in a platform called 52 called The Human Touch, and she spoke about Adivasi women working as data labelers in Jharkhand. So that's where it came to me. But I was like, okay, where do I take it to? You know, it's a great place to tell a story, but gradually while engaging with the data labeling, I realized that data labeling per se itself is a what happens in it is that a human being goes through thousands of photos and videos, tags them as say a chair and a table, and then an algorithm begins to understand the difference between the two. And in that process, what happens is that the data labeler itself is assuming the position of a child, and sorry, the data labeler is assuming the position of a parent, and AI is assuming the position of a child. And in that, it opens the whole world up to a lot of important questions. The question of whether a child is a clean slate or not, whether AI is a clean slate or not, whether all whatever information we put into it, is that how it will respond to it, or is a child, as a lot of psychotherapists have spoken about it, a child is born with around 300 odd patterns from their ancestors, and they get um they show up in different situations in life, whatever you pick up, whatever situation you are placed in. So that question also lingered in the film, that is AI a result of its ancestors, that is us, and what is humanity's role in it, you know and lastly, like, when I was traveling through Jharkhand, the place revealed the real theme to me, which was that around when I was traveling there, I saw some single gauge trains and some old colonial arches, which were there. Very frequently, I would see these images, old, really old colonial structures. And so I was like, what happened about 300, 400 years ago in those parts where foreigners and outsiders had come and settled in those parts to extract minerals, and they had deemed Adivas, like the problem of colonization and imperialism has been across the world. The effects of it have been felt across the world, but the sharpest effect of it had, I felt, was in an Adivasi community, because they were deemed as savages. They were deemed that your knowledge systems are not at par, and that kind of that. That kind of underconfidence is still lingered on, which happened 300 years ago. So I felt like an AI trained primarily on first world data had the real problem of replicating what happened 300 years ago. So that's where I linked colonization imperialism with AI, because it's there. AI is also a neo liberal sort of entity, right? It's a neoliberal entity with companies helmed from the first world, and it is supposed to address the whole of humanity. But how will it address the whole of humanity if it doesn't is not trained on data which is for the whole humanity?
And there is also a scene like when the smallest child walks for the first time, and the next scene, the AI walks for the first time. As you said, the relation between the mother and the children, with her children and AI, so it correlates very well. So, like while you were pitching, so like you have completed your script, or you were starting?
No, 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 no. I pitched the outline. But by that time, I had not discovered these themes of colonization and parent AI. This thing, I pitched a broad outline of this woman who begins to work and is trying to fight a custody battle. That idea had come in AI is like a child a little bit, to draw parallels between her daughter and AI. That had come through in the outline, but and that's what got me the film also. But other things had not. It was not a finished film.
And was there a metaphor between porcupine, the animal?
Yeah,
Was there a metaphor?
it was a metaphor. It was a metaphor, and it was also supposed to mean a few things. One is that it was a correlational character trait. It was, which was that if Nema, when she was younger, she had such a deep connection with nature. So, how do I represent that? So, porcupine being the shyest animal in the jungle, it doesn't even come close to other animals. So, if a human being can have a relationship with a porcupine, then it shows how deep their connection to nature in general is, even more than their peers in their own community. So that's what I wanted to show, that there was something special about her, that she feels like there's life in everything, and which is why later, that when she sees AI, she feels like there's life in it, you know and which is why she begins to get attached to it. It comes from that deep belief. And beautiful, there was this beautiful article in Outlook which was written, and the writer spoke about it. Spoke about, we become what we believe, and you know, you know.
And about the casting, like were they non-actors or like they were actors? Real actors or non-actors?
A lot of them were non-actors, but the main actor in the film, she's an actor. The Nema is an actor. Her name is Sonal Saguri, also known as Sonal Madhushankar. She's a phenomenal actor. Like, this is her first film, and first film as a lead and as a protagonist. She's done Gangubai before this, but uh, her story is very interesting. Also, her story is that she came from IT. Very late in her life, she got into cinema, and she wanted to act, and so she started working at YRF as a casting director. And in that casting stint, she picked up a lot of screen acting techniques. She's a incredible actor, man. Like, the way she's embodied this film and this a place that she doesn't belong to is very very strong and very evocative. The other actors, there's an actor called Anurag Lugun who plays Roshan. There's Monica Purti who plays Fulmani. There's Alka who's the manager who's played by an actor called Geeta Guha. She's an NSD trained actor and she's worked in Hindi films in many kind of roles. And all the children are from Jharkhand. All the children are non actors. So especially young Roshan and young Nema, the most evocative shots of young Nema, she is from the village where we shot. She's so good. Like, her face is so evocative, right? And her name is Suniti Mehto, and the other boy is Rosh. I think Rishi or Roshan Mehto, and the other two girls are one. Dhanu, her name is Ridhima Singh. She lives and studies in Ranchi, and the other girl Malti is Anushka Bhadar. She also stays in Ranchi and she's acted in a few films, but like very raw and very non-actorish and but amazing. The way these kids have pulled their roles are incredible.
Because the two children, like her children, it's a very challenging and a very difficult role,
Very, very
and they
difficult.
are also the main lead as well.
Yeah, yeah.
So, what was the most difficult challenge during the film, and how many days it took to like complete the film, and how many members were the team? How big was the group?
It took 12 days to finish the film because we didn't have a lot of resources. We had to finish it in 12 days. Everything, including the porcupine shooting, etc., was done in 12 days. The crew was about, at its peak, it was about 40 people, 40 to 50 people in Jharkhand, in Ranchi. But when also had to, we went for the second schedule where we went very lean. So that was about 20 people there. And the most challenging thing, yeah, the place was very challenging. You know, the place itself was very challenging. There's no film infrastructure there. Also, they say for your debut film, uh, you shouldn't work with actors
With animals and
and
non-actors, children especially.
and children, especially, yeah, or climb a hill. And I ended up doing all three. So in that aspect, it was very challenging. The other aspect that was challenging was to work with extremely raw child actors. Their references were very different from the kind of film that we were making. So we had to really have workshops, and for them, children are beautiful, yeah. In that respect, they if you beat around the bush about something, they may not respond. But if you tell that one correct thing to a child, na, which resonates with them at their level, they will catch on to it in a minute. So the way they caught on, so I also had a lot of beating around the bush. I beat around the bush a lot, about the character, this, that. But gradually, I also developed a relationship with each of them, and based on each of their personalities, one thing that I would say, and they could catch it, and not just catch it, like they took to the jungle, like the jungle became Ridhima, who's not from the Adivasi, from Uraon tribe, she also responded to the jungle very beautifully. Anushka responded, and the two kids are obviously from the village, and the other two kids, and so they were very cool. They would hang around, and they're very good.
Okay, okay, okay. So, like earlier, you said you pitch your project and you got money. So the money was covered for only story part or for the shooting as well? Or
For
you
shooting, for shooting also. I mean, they covered the project. One part of the funding came from that grant. The other part came from some individual financing, which one had to put.
like how hard it is for a film like this to get money from producer or for somebody or get grants as well?
It's hard, but the premise itself, an Adivasi woman interacting with AI, itself commands a lot of interest. So I feel like this would have worked regardless. If it not was not made in a couple of months, it would have eventually gotten made. That's what I feel. Really. But in general, independent films getting funding is very difficult, which is what story culture has really tried to do. Which is and one must talk about it. The interesting thing that they're doing is that they're working with corporate organizations, and what they're trying to do is that they're trying to use a lot of CSR money to finance films which may not get directly financed by traditional routes. And that Madhivanan Rajendran is my producer's name. He's brought this to the fore, and kudos to him, because of him these kind of stories are kind of coming to the fore, and I really think this will open up a third way of financing, which is not just directly commercial films. It is not OTT films. It's going to be films which corporates fund. Of course, corporates funding come with their own caveats. You know, they come with their own caveats, but at least if a film like mine or a film like Udit's film like Tracker can be made, then I think it's a great sign. It's a great place. It's a great avenue to open up funding.
So like what's the future? Like currently is doing this festival run. So when can it will be online?
Uh, what we're trying to do is, apart from Mami and Kerala, we took the film to first we took it to Pune, then we took it to we screened it at National Film Archive of India, and then we screened it at IIM Calcutta and Satyajit Ray Film and Television Institute. So we're trying to create a city by city buzz, and we are getting a lot of traction from there. When next we're doing 3 to 4 screenings in Bombay, and then we're doing a whole lot of screenings in Delhi, and after that trying to do Bangalore, Ahmedabad, and the final screening will be in Jharkhand, in the village that we shot in. So the idea is to create that kind of organic buzz which I saw in the first Mami screening, and by the time we're in March or April, I think we'll have enough buzz to push for an OTT release. We are talking to a lot of OTT platforms, and we will be able to get one, hopefully.
Okay, great, great, great. Also, I want to talk about the sound of the film because it's really nature as well. So, how was the post production like?
So in post, the largest amount of time took was taken by edit, because one had to tweak. For example, Dhanu's character, she was a very angsty teenager in the writing. Supposed to be a very angsty teenager, but I had to change the character around because Ridhima has a beautiful, sensitive face, but a lot of times the dialogue portions felt a little inorganic. So one had to tweak the character of Dhanu in the edit and I had to make her this docile kid to which things are happening. Otherwise, she was one character who would like full on, ungli karo her mother. And so it became from an angsty teenager uh, to this docile character, and that led to a lot of restructuring of the film. So I had to rewrite the film in the edit, and that took a lot of time. Uh, After that, sound was again very difficult, but one thing that was the most difficult to crack in this film was the music. My music director, he goes by the name Khwabga. He was incredible. I mean, he had been with me since writing. when I was writing. So we had a couple of tracks, but we kept changing them. Like I kept changing, and I was like, because the story was evolving, etc. But he was so patient with it. Uh, he kept working with me, and we would look at a lot of like music research was also very interesting because you look at a lot of Prasar Bharati old archival music from Adivasi areas, and we had recorded something in Jharkhand. So the challenge was to use that and still make it very accessible. And I think Khwabga Saranj did a very good job with it eventually. He blended these. He made there's this one song where Nema takes her daughter to the jungle to teach her things. That is an Adivasi track, but the way and the treatment of it is by Saranj, goes by the name of Khwabga. Yeah, that took the longest time, and then sound was done by somebody called Kalhan Raina, and the film was mixed by Aprajita. Aprajita, and she goes by the name of Aprajita, and they were very strong pillars of support. But of course, it was very difficult. But because they had a lot less time, and this film required a lot of sonic soundscape work on soundscape because it is a evocative jungle kind of a film also, and also AI. So there's so much potential to go crazy, right? So I think sound was also quite difficult, and then finally color was done by somebody called Color Car. He goes by the name Color Car, and his name is Uday Oswal. He's phenomenal. That guy, I mean, he's gonna blow up in the next couple of years. He's so good, and he's also from Punjab, by the way. Huh? He's from Chandigarh, and Uday, the way he matched uh, different. We used three cameras in the film because first we had a lot of money, so we had an Ari Mini, a lot money, whatever. We had little money, but it was enough to get Ari Mini, and then we had no money, so we had to borrow someone's camera, which was a Blackmagic 6K, and then third was like B-roll, so we shot on A7S2. So he managed to put it all together, you know and all his assistant also Toshek worked on it, worked with me rigorously. They gave it in post. I think this film was first made in writing and then was made in post, like most of the films. It was written in the post, and all of these guys contributed a lot. There's a guy called Gunjan Jayavant. He shot a little B-roll with me, etc., and that added so much to the film. You know, that shot that the girl puts her ear on the rock is shot by him. You know, and the shot within the house where the child and the mother are sleeping, and the foot of the boy moves a little. I don't know if you saw that. So all of those parts are him, and so a lot of people gave a lot of themselves to this film. Most importantly, I should mention Swaroop's name, Swaroop Reghu. He was the editor on the film, and the way he helped me navigate the film was incredible because anyone can edit a well directed scene. You know, it's there. You just need to whatever. But a scene which is not being directed well, how do you? Because of a lot of issues on set, you didn't have time. On some blocking didn't work out, but you had to let it go because you didn't have time. All of that. So in that, the editor really comes in. They, I keep saying that he taught me how to break the footage. Footage तोड़ना सिखाया उसने मुझे, you know, and really a lot of it goes to credit goes to him. And Swaroop comes from a background of advertising, so that he's used to really break footage and use random stuff, random places. The same shot of the porcupine we've used so many places, but we've used it so distinctly. What we've done is we flipped the image. We've flipped it. We made it night. We've made it day. We've added some AI generated, side, you have to widen the shot. We've all done that. All of that comes from the fact that Swaroop came into the film, and the way he works with all of this is quite incredible. He's quite a like solution oriented guy. So yeah,
Okay, okay. I mean, for me, the cinematography and grading like stands out a lot.
yeah. Cinematography was by two of my very close friends, Monica Tiwari and Harshit Saini, and additional cinematography was by Gunjan, and they've done an incredible job, man. And both all of us like got so tuned in that the principal images of the film, the images that make or break the film, just turned out well, you know. And two DPs coming together to do it, it's quite a difficult thing, but they managed so well. Also because we're all friends, so
So we have talked about film. Let's talk about some films like you like. Like, are there any recommendation of films or filmmakers that you want to recommend?
I think Udan was really one of the most significant influences on me. Um, After that, there's a film called Post Tenebras Lux by Carlos Regadas. That had a strong influence on me. Then the deepest influence that I think that is even seen in Humans in the Loop is a film called Kumati by G. Arvindan. He's a Malayalam filmmaker, and he worked in Kerala, and he's made some wonderful films. I saw the restored version of Kumati at NFAI, and man, that film, it comes in my dreams, yeah. In fact, right now going to Kerala, I was so happy to talk about Kumati to so many people, the music, etc. So I think Kumati is a deep influence on me. You know, it gave me the strength and the courage to actually use magic realism in the film like this. So the fact that a person comes, this wandering storyteller comes, and he's able to he makes these children into animals for some time, and then he changes them back, and there's so much love in this guy, and so weird this fellow is who comes from outside. He's relegated, like he's that person who's kind of relegated. People are scared of him also, but also people are in awe of him. Children are in awe of him. They talk about him. So that idea of the conviction that that can still happen, that a person can change these kids into animals, that comes, it feeds into the idea that a porcupine can lead you out of the jungle. you know it comes from that belief that cinema gives you, but that belief is only strengthened if you see it, and if you see another filmmaker do it with conviction. So Kumati is a deep influence on me. Udan is a really big influence on me. Then Bimal Roy's films have been a strong influence on me because he was such a commercial director, and we all aspire for that. We want to be commercial directors, yet tell stories that are good, that are sensitive, and but we want to reach the like I want to reach the largest audience there is. So Bimal Roy's film, Mani Ratnam's Iruvar is a big influence. Zia Zanke's films, a lot of Agnes Varda's films also have had a deep influence on me. Yeah, I mean the list will go on.
Okay, okay.
If I-
So, like for humans in the loop, was there a specific reference? Because for the first shot, like I found some similarities with Rima Das
with
Village Rockstar.
with Village Rockstar, no, yeah, not with Village. The film has references, but not in its visual palette as much as in the deepest emotions. Like I said, Kumati, that conviction of a Pokemon that comes from Kumati. Like it doesn't happen in Kumati that an animal is leading you out of the jungle, but the belief that you can do this and you can work around this in a film and it can elevate your film, that comes from a film like Kumati. The other influence I must say is a film called A Rifle in a Bag by Arya Rote. It's a documentary. It's a phenomenal documentary. It's so humane. Like I think the character, the woman in that film who plays an Adivasi woman, really had a strong imprint on me. It pushed me to write. It pushed me to explore Nema in a lot more facets than just being a data labeler, and what is the how does a daily life of an Adivasi inform the philosophy that evolves? You know, so that comes from a rifle in a bag.
Okay, okay, okay. So my last question is, if somebody wants to become a filmmaker, like what advice would you give to them?
I'm so new, and this is my first film, so I'm not really somebody who should be giving advices right now. But this is something that I tell myself also. Um, I think there are two things to be done, just two things. One is to read, if you're working on a subject, any subject, it can be a city oriented subject, whatever. If there is poetry around that, if there are poems and people have written lyrical things, then if a filmmaker explores that, for example, if I once I read Adivasi, not just poetry, muhavre bolte हैं ना हिंदी में, मुहावरे होते हैं, couplets and sayings. Once I read those, they evoked such imagery in me that it I was able to take it. There's a beautiful correlation between cinema, dream, the language of dreams, and the language of poetry. Beautiful underlying theme. Um, that is one. So I would say that we need to, whenever we're researching something, we need to enrich ourselves with the poetry of that case, and it'll really, your film will elevate. The other thing that I say is that give yourself what you, there is often a gap between what you imagine and what you can achieve as a filmmaker. You know, people, the first things that you tackle in a film school are that only, that you're imagining some crazy stuff, but are you able to achieve it on shoot? Are you able to achieve it on the edit? So I would say that work on giving your craft a lot of strength, so that the gap between what you imagine and what you can actually achieve on ground and on the edit gets closer and closer and closer. It gets filled up. Those are two things that I will, suggest.